Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today we are continuing my Discworld journey with The Fifth Elephant by Terry Pratchett. I believe this is the 24th Discworld book. I'll write it in the title, so I will have already corrected myself by the time you see this, but if you're not new to my channel, you'll know that I am reading the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett in order. It's a very long series, and as you go, you can see Pratchett's writing change, which is part of why it's so fun, and also the Discworld series is a lot of reoccurring characters. Even though you can read them all as separate books, there are some in-jokes that make a lot more sense if you've read them previously. And so I am now up to The Fifth Elephant, which if you saw my last review on Carpe Jugulum, if you didn't, that link is above me now. This book is my partner Matt and his dad's favourite Pratchett. They've both read it 3 or 4 times, as you can see from how battered this copy actually is. It's been very well loved. So I was so excited to read this one. It is continuing on with the Guard series, so that is The Watch in Ankh-Morpork with Sam Vines. But as always in my book reviews, I'll read you guys the blurb first. Before I get into that, don't forget if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Blurb time! Sam Vines is a man on the run. Yesterday he was a duke, a chief of police, and the ambassador to the mysterious, fat, rich country of Uberwald. Now he has nothing but his native wit and the gloomy trousers of Uncle Vanya, don't ask. It's snowing, it's freezing, and if he can't make it through the forest to civilization, there's going to be a terrible war. But there are monsters on this trail. They're bright, they're fast, they're werewolves, and they're catching up. The Fifth Elephant is Terry Pratchett's latest installment in the Discworld cycle, this time starring dwarfs, diplomacy, intrigue, and big lumps of fat. Obviously, Pratchett has written so many more books after this one, so this is not the latest installment of the Discworld series, but apparently when this book was bought, it was. So this one was released in 1999, and the Corgi edition, which was this one, was in 2000. So I mean, we're catching up, But The Fifth Elephant is about Sam Vines going to Uberwald, which is a lawless or more lawless place. Every species has their own leader, so the vampires live there, the werewolves, the dwarfs, the trolls, and they all interfight all the time with each other. They all hate one another on and off, and Sam is sent there because the king of dwarfs has died, so they need a new king. So all the diplomats get invited to the crowning, basically, and they have to sit on the, now I pronounce it scone of stone, but I believe you should say it scone of stone, because then it's the own and own. So the scone of stone, which is based on the, I don't know what it's called, but I'm going to call it the King's Rock in Edinburgh, which is a rock that you are supposed to sit on to be crowned king. And that rock was stolen by the English, of course. Ancestors were naughty, so they stole it. But there is currently a rock there. Now, no one knows which one is the real rock, the one in England or the one in Scotland. And that's kind of what this one goes into. So it is a murder mystery, hilarious comedy, fantasy setting. It has the Assassin's Guild, which are one of my favourite guilds in the Discworld, and it's just hilarious. It also features Nobby, but I'm gonna say that they're Betty a bit more, but still called Nobby, which you know I love my Betty. If you've watched my review on Jingo, Betty. It also has Cheery, who is a dwarf in The Watch, who is a woman. Now, dwarfs, as Pratchett will have explained, dwarfs do not show gender. So as far as dwarfs are concerned, gender is only needed when you are reproducing. If you want to make another dwarf, you need a male and female dwarf, or the anatomy of. Beyond that, there's no difference. They're all called he, they all have beards, they all wear the same stuff. No difference whatsoever, which is really refreshing to read about. But also Cheery has defied that rule, and she is a she. And she wears dresses, she wears skirts, and that causes so much drama when they go back into the dwarfs' ancestral kingdom, because dwarfs aren't allowed to show that they're female. You can see what this book's going to go into, can't you? But let's get into my quotes from this book. As always, I will give you guys a spoiler alert. if any of these are going to give you spoilers and give you a time to skip to if you haven't read the book, or if you don't want any spoilers, you'll be able to skip to my overall review. But for now, I'm going to start obviously with quotes from the beginning of the book. So let's begin. Page 46. Sam Vimes could parallel process. I just thought this was a great way to show someone whose mind can do two things at once. Instead of parallel parking, you parallel process. It's just great Pratchett writing, and you guys know I love Pratchett's writing style. Again on page 46, however, this is about husbands. They learn to follow their own line of thought while at the same time listening to what their wives say. No, Pratchett, no. You'll know if you're not new to my channel, I give books a little leeway if they are I don't know if I should say 2000 or 2010. Comment down below which is the year things actually started to change. I feel like it might sadly be 2010. But I give books that are a bit older than that date a little bit of leeway with the sexism, because all fantasy books were just full of it, and all of society is full of it, and it's just everywhere. And those books, even if they were trying to deal with those issues, didn't necessarily do it well. There were a lot of stereotypes. As a massive fantasy reader, I grew up getting exceptionally used to having the one female character in the group of men. She's always sexualized. She's always going to sleep with the main protagonist. She's always used sex in order to kill people or to steal from people. It's never just skill. And then if there's another woman in it, they're always going to be the head of the prostitutes or something like that. They're never going to be the main protagonist, and they're never going to actually be human. Well, they're never going to be just them. They're always going to be boobs. So that was a quote where Pratchett's kind of done that. I understand he's playing on the stereotype of husbands and wives, and it is satire, which is why I always say it's quite difficult with Pratchett. Because he writes satire, you never know quite what he's fighting and sometimes what he's not. So we're going to presume he's fighting it. I wasn't quite into that little bit of a stereotype there. And my tea's ready. Page 51. It wasn't that dwarfs weren't interested in sex. They saw the vital need for fresh dwarfs to leave their goods to and continue the mining work after they had gone. It was simply that they also saw no point in distinguishing between the sexes anywhere but in private. I already mentioned this at the very beginning of this book review because I think I'm a dwarf. You know the stereotype of when fantasy readers grow up, and when you're really young you want to be an elf, and then you start to realise you're probably not good enough to be an elf, so you're probably a human. Then normally when you get older, like when you get into your 30s, like me, you just admit you want to be a hobbit. Your entire life goal is to be a hobbit, to eat good food, have a nice house and be left alone in your garden. That's all you want, is to be a hobbit. And no matter how many times we joke about this, I will always be referred to, due to my, let's say, less fragile ways, as a dwarf. And I really like how the dwarves don't see gender, apart from when it comes to who you want to have sex with. Mainly because I did work in a lot of male-dominated fields, and it gets tiring, trust me. So it'd be really nice if people just treat you like a person and people didn't question why you're doing a job that mostly men do. And vice versa for men as well. I'm sure they get it just as bad if they're in female-dominated roles. You don't ask people all the time why you're doing that particular job. It's just creepy. And you also don't squeal at them when you answer the door and stare at them. Many things. We're going off on a tangent. However, I appreciate the dwarfs not noticing gender unless they want to. Page 62. It was funny how people were people everywhere you went. Even if the people concerned weren't the people who made up the phrase people are people everywhere are traditionally thought of as people. I did that well. I just wanted to see, that's a tongue twister, right? I'm going to write that quote below, and please pause this video or come back to it at the end and try to say that. I was reading it and I had to read it at least 2-3 times to calculate. What? The people of the people of the people of the people. I just thought it was fun. Page 96. There was a typical Ankh-Morpork street scene outside, although people were trying to separate them. This is just a wonderful example, as always, of Pratchett showing rather than telling. He doesn't tell you what's going on outside, but you know there's a street fight going on because people are trying to separate people. He doesn't go into all the detail of it's overcast, it's raining, the ground's muddy or it's cobbles. No. It's just what people are doing. Page 108. Shows what kind of troll he was, striking a lady, muttered Nobby. But you ain't a lady, Nobby. You're just wearing your traffic karma disguise. He wasn't to know. As I've already said from the start of this review, that is Nobby dressing as a woman. And I positive it was Jingo, Nobby became Betty, and I just loved Betty. And I love how Nobby still feels more comfortable, or feels comfortable in women's clothing, and how their mannerisms just completely change. I love that representation. Page 109. Nobby, will you stop pinching the merchandise, said Colin. And don't argue, I just saw you put a couple of dozen in your handbag. That don't matter, rumbled the troll. Mr. Sonky always said they was free to the watch. That was very civic of him, said Captain Colon. Yeah, he said the last thing we wanted was more bloody coppers around the sea. I love that. So this factory makes rubber toys, shall we say. And Nobby is filling their purse with what we can only presume are dildos. And they say it's free to the watch so that they don't reproduce and make more coppers. I love it. Love it. It's just, again, it's just great showing. It's really good showing. Page 212. You didn't need the brains of detritus in a snowdrift to suspect a connection. At the start of this book review, I said that I'm reading the Discworld in order, and as you read it in order, you see more inside jokes. Now, that is an inside joke going back to a much earlier Guards series. I can't remember if it's got in Guards or in the Night's Watch. I'll write it down here. I'll look up which one it was in. But detritus is a troll, and it's a lot colder in the mountains. And in the mountains, they are quite smart, but in Ankh-Morpork, they are known for being a little bit slower, to not understanding. And in the earlier book, detritus gets put into a freezer, and he ends up doing these massive mathematical equations all over the walls. So he's really, really intelligent. This link to you don't need to be detritus in a snowdrift to work out the connection means that you don't need to be the brightest person in the world to work it out. But if you haven't read the previous book, you may not know what that's referring to. So as I said, you can read these completely separate, but if you do read them in order, you get little nuggets like that. Page 352. It wasn't until 10 years ago that they replaced trial by ordeal here with trial by lawyer, and that was only because they found that lawyers were nastier. From reading Pratchett, does he have a thing against lawyers? Page 365. But she cooked for Sam because she vaguely felt that a wife ought to. Pratchett! This goes back to the start when I did that quote about husbands not listening to their wives. It's another thing like that. If you want to cook for your partner, that's absolutely fine, but it's not a wife ought to thing. No. Page 446. This will become, in time, the axe of someone's grandfather, said the king, and no doubt over the years it will need a new handle or a new blade, and over the centuries the shape will change in line with fashion, but it will always be, in every detail and respect, the axe I give you today. And because it will change with the times, it will always be sharp. I adore this quote. It links to a Japanese way of thinking, which is a lot of the temples in Japan, or all the temples in Japan, are wood. Now, wood will always rot. It will always decay. As people know with garden fences, they last so many years and you have to replace them. You have to paint them every year or two. You have to keep up with them and they will always need replaced. Now, in the UK, lots of things were made of stone. So the idea is that it lasts forever and that one stone is that particular thing. And if you replace it or you change it, it's not that particular thing. Which is the opposite in Japan. The temple is still the original temple, even if every single beam, every single nail, if every part of that has been replaced, it is still that same temple. And that's what it means with the axe. Even if you change the handle because of wear and tear, if you have to change the blade because of wear and tear, all of it, it's still the same axe that you were given, and I just love that attitude. I've seen it a little bit more and more with the cost of living, of people are starting to re-wear wedding dresses. So some people have a wedding dress that goes down in their family, but the person who wears it next changes it, but it's still the same dress, and I absolutely love that. That is the meaning behind this, and it's also one of the meanings in this book, which is just a really nice meaning to go through, so I like that quote for that. Finally, my last quote is page 447. The world wasn't moved by heroes or villains, or even by policemen, police officers, Pratchett. it might as well be moved by symbols. All he knew was that you couldn't hope to try for the big stuff like world peace and happiness, but you might just about be able to achieve some tiny deed that'd make the world, in a small way, a better place. Now, this is a complete reference to J.R. Tolkien.
Saruman believes that it is only a great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love.
It's those everyday little deeds that keep the darkness at bay. Pratchett, I know from seeing interviews with him, was a Tolkien fan, and I believe he used to read The Hobbit every single Christmas to the family, like all together they'd read it out loud, and I just love how that comes out in The Fifth Elephant. It's like he's sort of just kept a load of things close to his heart and then just brought it out in this book. I am going to say spoiler alert here. I'm not doing any quotes now, but there is just something I want to discuss, so if you don't want to hear a little giveaway, skip to this time here. I just thought it was really fascinating, so I'm going to talk about that, and then we'll go back into the full review. So the thing I really want to talk about is the orange. Now, Pratchett, when Inigo comes into the room, he throws an orange at him. Now, he is supposed to be the person who comes with you when you're a diplomat, the person who actually does the meetings and actually does the talking. They go with them. And when he comes to the office, Sam throws an orange at them, and they don't flinch at all. They just stand there and let it bounce off their arm. And then when Pratchett goes to the watch, he throws an orange at someone and they duck. So they react to this orange. And that little trick foreshadows and is how Pratchett works out that Inigo is an assassin, because Inigo realised an orange is not a lethal weapon, it will not hurt me, so I don't need to move. Whereas a normal person sees anything coming towards them and you move or you catch it or you do something. But Inigo doesn't. And that's how Pratchett knew he was an assassin. I was reading it going, why did he throw an orange at him? And I was like, the orange is important. What is the orange telling us? And you knew something. So yeah, that's all. The Fifth Elephant. It is basically a murder mystery. It is a watch book. It is about diplomacy. The cover and the name is The Fifth Elephant. Why? If you've read Pratchett before, the Discworld rides atop the Great A'Tuin, who is a turtle who swims through space. And atop of the Great A'Tuin's back are 4 elephants, which hold the Discworld. Now, there is a Discworld belief that there were once 5 elephants, but one fell off. And guess where you find the 5th elephant? Of course, it's Uberwald. And it never tells you this. Uberwald has all of the metals. It has all the fat. It has all these gems and gold, all these precious things from the 5th elephant. Pratchett doesn't say it, but the 5th elephant obviously fell into Uberwald. And that's what they're mining, is the 5th elephant. And welcome back if you're here from the spoiler-free zone. We're now going to talk about my overall review of this book and go through my marking system that I made in a previous vlog for how to mark this book at 5 stars. So overall, this book, Pratchett has definitely sus plot. Now, I would say Masquerade is on par with this one for me personally, which is one of the Witches books. I'll pop a link above if you haven't seen my book review on that one. Masquerade was perfection for me. This one is the Guard series perfection, definitely. It flowed so well. It was really fast to read. You didn't want to put it down. You were trying to guess. He leaves the nuggets. You can find them. I want to read it again to see what nuggets I noticed that I missed the first time. Now I know the end. Matt says he's read it like 3-4 times and still finds things. So it's written so well. He's definitely mastered plot. I kind of question, was Pratchett just always destined to be a murder mystery writer? Because Masquerade is also a murder mystery? Is that just where Pratchett blooms, is murder mystery mixed with fantasy? Obviously fantastic characterization and showing as always with Pratchett. So overall, I gave this book for enjoyment. I gave it a 10 out of 10 because it was great. World building, 10 out of 10 because it's the Discworld. I don't know why I bother even having to say world building, because this world is so well detailed and thought out. It's obviously always going to be a 10. Plot, 10. Finally, Pratchett has got it. Writing style, 10, it's Pratchett. Characterization, 10, it's Pratchett. Representation, now this one, I have given it a 10 because of Nobby because of Cheery, because of all the various different races and creatures in the Discworld. He tackles racism, he does tackle certain amounts of sexism. I don't like his representation of Vimes' married life necessarily, because he does fall into those stereotypes sometimes, but then it is satire, so I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, and it's pre-210. Wolverine kindly mentioned in my comments on my Jingo video regarding Hot Fuzz being released in 2007, and they used police officer, so by 2007 Pratchett should have known. This book is 2000, so I will let them off, but just a thing to bear in mind with the ages. At the minute I'll say 2010. 2010 is when I give no more leeway for sexism and no more leeway for policeman being written in the books. And originality 10, so it is a 5-star read for me. I really loved The Fifth Elephant. I would highly recommend it to anyone. To be honest, the Witches series and the Guards series are the two Discworld, it's not spin-offs, but the sections of the Discworld that I would highly recommend for people to read, especially if it's someone who isn't necessarily going to forgive things like The Colour of Magic. I like one of Rincewind's stories, the other two, not so much. If someone's not going to give leeway for that, then get them onto the Guards series or the Witches series, because the characters are so good, they're worth it, even before plot is fully there. But the plots are always better in the Guards and the Witches books in early Pratchett writing. But now I'm excited to read not Witches and not the Guards series in the Discworld to see how he writes other things now he's sus plot. I'm excited for this. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you're enjoying my Discworld series. I have a lovely comment of someone else who is doing the Discworld series, the BookThing. They are doing the Discworld series in order, so do check their channel out. I'll pop it below. I'm excited to watch their videos, but they're called the BookThing on YouTube if you want to see someone else who's also doing the Discworld series in order. I want to compare our views. I'm really excited, so I'm going to be watching their series as they do this as well. But I do want to ask for an opinion. I started doing the Discworld series before I started doing book reviews on my book channel, which means obviously my reviews started a little bit into the series. Do you guys want me to reread the first Pratchett books so that you have a full review of those in the series? Or do you want me to just do a sum up of my feelings for those books with a little bit less quotations in them to sum up how I felt? I do have the stars out of 5 on Goodreads and my review on there of each of the Discworld books, but please comment down below. Do you want me to make a catch-up video of this, or would you like me when I finish the series to reread those ones just to put them in the start? I'm open to your suggestions, please let me know. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post your book pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching guys, bye!